Yeah, so the really weird thing about making videos on this thing is, like, I can't copy them to my diary DVDs from this camera. So if I want to make, like, a diary, I have to go do it on my video camera. Unfortunately, the battery on my video camera doesn't work, so this is the only thing I can use when I'm out. And it's better to use this because it's smaller, like when you're going out somewhere. So yeah, but I guess as long as I'm here, I could share a few thoughts on the Lost finale. I don't know, because I wasn't really sure what to think of it at first. I liked it, and then for a while I didn't like it, and then I thought about it some more, and I realized I did again, and it's like I keep going back and forth with it. Right now, I'd say I do like it, but I guess it's just a matter of what you were expecting from the story, because fundamentally there were a lot of questions that didn't get answered. People talk about the questions that didn't get answered, and it's like, well, would it be any different if they had? I mean, yeah, we would know what the answers were, but I don't know. It's just it's hard to explain to people why mystery is such a powerful thing, and why taking away that mystery would take away the power. I guess people just don't believe it. They want the answer, but then when they get it, they're not happy with it, and this happens time and time again. It's a never-ending cycle. The people always want what they can't have the most, and the answers are one of those things that you can't have, because I mean, essentially, to give people the answer would be to destroy anything that they had created in their minds, or any conceived notions that they had made up over the course of 5 years, and that gets pretty big. If you spend a lot of time on it, it does. You spend a lot of time thinking, well, the Dharma Initiative and this and that, and maybe they were here to do whatever, and blah, 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 and it's just, I think it's almost better not to know, because then you kind of, I mean, I'm not a bit, ever since Mother 3, I've always kind of been a little bit skeptical about do-it-yourself stories, or stories where you have to make your own interpretation, because nobody wants to play God to someone else's creation. That's why we have the ability to create our own things, like our own characters, our own stories. Everybody has the ability to do that, and it is a divine ability. Yeah, but the thing is, when someone else makes something like that, you expect them to take care of it. You don't make a doll and then give it to someone else and say, here, you take care of this. They're not going to know what to do. They didn't make it. They didn't invest their time in it. How are they supposed to know what it wants? So that's why I say, that if it's, if you're the one that did the creating, then it's your responsibility to follow through on it and, finish the story. And I guess that's a lot of why people are upset about it, because they feel like they don't want to play God. They don't want to play God to someone else's story. That's, there's only one God. When you create something, you're the one who decides. Now, this whole thing about the afterlife, people are saying, well, all these people died at different times, and they ended up together in the afterlife because there is no time there. I'm not sure why there's so many people that come up on the boards saying they don't understand that. I mean, if I died right now and somebody else died 50 years from now, we meet up in the afterlife. I mean, I'd like to think we could see each other at the same time, in the same condition that we best remember each other, which I think is kind of what the whole point is. I mean, one of the bigger questions I had that still remains to be really seen is that if all these people created this reality to live in, before they can move on or whatever, then why did they create it so bad? Like, I don't know. I mean, the insinuation that I got from the show and from some of the fans, I guess, as well, was that it was like an afterlife that they created for themselves, and they wanted it to be, happy. So Locke made himself, back together with Helen and things like that. But, so people are asking, well, if they created this alternate life, why did they make it so miserable? Why did Saeed create a reality where Naeed was married to his brother? Nadia. Why did Saeed create a reality where Nadia was married to his brother? And why would Locke create a reality where he was still in a wheelchair? Or why would, why would Jack create a reality where he was with Juliet, then he divorced her, but he got a son out of it? It's like, because now they say, well, he doesn't have a son, he just created him. It's like, oh man. But that's got to be kind of devastating, I guess. So I don't know, but my answer to that would be, and I don't know if this is really true because I haven't thought it out much, but it seems like the characters in the afterlife, their situations and everything, were based on how they were perceived by other people. like other people saw Locke as the guy. Well, that's the thing, though. Locke is kind of the exception to that rule because Locke is in a wheelchair, but nobody ever knew that on the island. Maybe a lot of people from his life elsewhere knew that, but nobody perceived him that way on the island, so it wouldn't make sense for him to end up that way in the afterlife if my theory was true. Because when you die, I mean, people say that when you die, you don't exist anymore, you know. The only way that you exist after you die is through other people's memories of you. So in the afterlife, that's why I was thinking, in the afterlife, the depictions of these characters could be based on other people's memories of them. So if Jack was more stable in the afterlife than he was before, that would be because people perceived him that way. Kate, she was still a fugitive in the afterlife. And people say, well, why would she create an afterlife where she was still a fugitive? And it's because that's how people remembered her, so that's why she was that way. And it's the same thing with Sawyer. I mean, Sawyer started out as a con man, but he ended up, well, that's the thing. Kate started out as a fugitive too, but she ended up helping a lot of people, giving blood to Ben and all that stuff. So I guess you can't, twist the argument to fit every single character. I mean, you shouldn't, not if you expect it to work. But I don't want to head back in the car. It's getting kind of hot out here. I don't know, man. So I don't know what time it is even. It's 10 minutes going here. Yeah. But that's just a little bit of what I think, with Saeed. People perceived him as being apart from Nadia, so he was apart from Nadia in the afterlife. I mean, people didn't see that he got back together with her. People didn't imagine that he ever would. And people probably figured, that if he was apart from her for so long, she would have found someone else or went to the next nearest person, which would have been his brother. But whatever. I mean, I don't think that other people's memories, like Hurley's memories of Saeed, wouldn't get that detailed. But maybe, I don't know. But I think that's just maybe a small piece of it. At the very end, when Jack is lying on the sand or on the island and Vincent's lying next to him, and he looks up and he sees the plane fly in the sky, for some reason, the first time I saw that, I thought he was looking at Oceanic 815, not crashing. He was seeing just a glimpse of the other reality before fully giving himself over to it. And I guess that could still make sense now in light of what we know now, because he was dying, he was moving on to that afterlife, and in the afterlife the plane didn't crash, so he was kind of looking at himself, saying, okay, that's me, I'm ready to move on to that person, or ready to move on to that life, so he did it. But it only occurred to me later that he was probably watching the Ajira flight fly away. I just don't see, the flight took off a long time before he died. I don't see why it would still be flying over the island. It seemed like it left. I mean, it was pretty much out over the sea, so it doesn't make sense that it would have turned around and flown back over the island again. So that's why I thought that Jack was seeing a different plane. That's why the Ajira flight was not the first thing to come to mind. So, but anyone who might have thought that, I don't know. But did anybody else think it was 8:15? Because I did. I don't know. It's just it's a random thing. So I ain't got much sleep yet today. I got like 2 hours of sleep. So I got to get some more before I go to work tonight. So, oh wait, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Lost. Well, how much time is left on this thing? It's 12:50 now. I hope you can actually hear what I'm saying, because I tell you. Maybe if I turned it towards my face, you could. I just don't feel like... I feel like I can talk better without the camera on my face right now. I'm sitting here picking my nose anyway. You don't want to see that. That's gross. Like, I don't know how that whole giving birth in the afterlife works thing. So she gave birth to Aaron and he's already dead. Is there even a point to that at all? Like giving birth in the afterlife? I'm not sure. But everybody keeps coming out and screaming purgatory. It's like, dude, it's not purgatory. It's heaven. I thought purgatory meant hell. Now, maybe that's not true. I don't know. But I thought it meant hell. And it looked pretty clear to me that they weren't going to hell at the end of the series. They were going to heaven. So, and that was kind of my thought was, so many people were saying it was hell. So it was a nice little trick on their part to make it heaven in the end. So Hurley and Ben are left to take care of the island. That's kind of cool that Hurley ended up... I mean, I don't know. He said he didn't want to be it. And then Jack turns around and gives it to him. And it's almost like, thanks a lot, dude. Because he didn't want to do it. And it's like... so I felt bad for him. But I guess once he took the job and he figured it out, I don't know. The whole passing of the torch from one person to the next started out as some big, huge thing when the original mother passed it on to Jacob. and Jacob passed it on to Jack. But by the time Jacob passed it on to Jack, it was already getting cheap because you only had so much time to do it. And then Jack has to turn around and pass it on to Hurley in like 5 minutes, and it's like, oh. So by the time it got to Hurley, it had to be pretty diluted at that point, I guess you could say. What I want to do later on is try and make like a top 10 list of my top 10 lost best moments, best moments from the show, and talk about like why those are my favorite moments and that kind of thing. So I think that would be cool. Maybe a whole bunch of top 10 lost lists, like top 10 stupidest parts, like top 10 dumbest questions, top 10 quotes, I guess. Maybe top 10 comebacks, top 10 Ben and Locke moments. That alone would be a gold mine. Yeah, so I'm turning this off now, and I will see you next time. Good luck. Good day.